Hello, hello. Welcome to NJ Thrive's Small Business Webinars. It is Thursday, May 25th, and you are joining us for our weekly webinars created to help New Jersey small business owners start, grow, and thrive. I hope you're all doing well today. Thank you so much for joining us, taking out your time and being here. If you can hear me properly, then all good. If you can't, let us know in the chat and we'll do our best to help you listen. If not, then this webinar is being recorded and it will be available in some time. All right. Who are we, or who am I? First, my name is Uzma Sheikh. I am your moderator for this webinar. And who is NJSBDC? Well, that stands for New Jersey Small Business Development Centers Network, NJSBDC. We're a statewide program powered by the SBA, which stands for Small Business Administration, and partners to help small businesses in New Jersey with mainly three things. And that's no cost small business consulting. All right, can you hear me? Please let me know.
We
Okay,
can hear you.
perfect. Technical difficulties, everyone. So sorry. Thank you for your patience and cooperation. We appreciate it so much. Okay, where was I? I was asking you all to introduce yourselves. I can see everyone is doing that. Thank you so much. Yeah, just let us know where you're from. Excuse me, what your business is about, what you do, if any contact information you'd like to share, such as your phone number or website, anything. You can find a partner, investor, who knows, a supporter right here. All right, moving on to what our agenda is for this webinar. We have a couple of headlines from the small business community that we like to go over, some things that have happened or will be happening throughout the week. Then we'll go through our presentation with our speaker, and then we'll have a Q&A session till the end. So stick around, and if you can't, again, this is being recorded, so it will be available on our YouTube channel or our website. So what are the small business headlines of the week? I'll share them with you right here. The links will be shared in the chat, so feel free to take a look at your own time. I'll just go through them briefly. Published on May 22nd, 3 days ago by NJEDA, the board makes wide-ranging set of approvals to continue growing NJ's economy. And several key program and policy during its May meeting, including its first awards of residential projects under the Aspire program, additional funding for the authority's childcare programming, and record-breaking investments in venture capital. So as we all know so far, or if you're new, NJEDA is a great resource for all the small business community. So if you're looking for any grant information, loan information, anything that's available, come to their website. You'll find all the information there. They're very good with updating information. As you can see, all the programs, you'll find them here, such as the State Small Business Credit Initiative, Black and Latino Seed Fund, Child Care Facilities Improvement Program, great resource. Moving on to business.nj.gov, banking and financial business corporations form BFC-I is being replaced. I am not familiar, but if you're familiar with this, then definitely you should follow up and learn more. Again, recent regulations and resources, watch how-to videos for your business straight from the Treasury. So definitely some useful information. And videos offer guidance on a range of business-related subjects, ranging from business formation through business status and certification reporting. And last, grow your company with the grant for diverse small businesses in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. A total of 100,000 awarded to 25 businesses in both states. This is the founder's first Job Creators Quest. So pre-register for the 2023 Job Creators Quest grant. That application will open on May 30th, 5 days from today. And the deadline to complete the grant application, again, it's a grant, not a loan, is June 26th, 2023. It has all the eligibility requirements, everything here for the registration. You can pre-register there. All right, hope that's helpful for you all. Make sure to click on the links and learn more on your own. Things to keep in mind, some housekeeping rules. All right. So any questions that you may have, please try to send them in the Q&A box. If you put them any in the chat, I'll try to go through them towards the end. But since there's a lot of comments and suggestions or concerns, they will most likely get lost. And we do want to make sure that we're addressing your questions in the session. So if they're in the Q&A, we'll see them right away. If you'd like to receive the slides that will be shown, then you will have to complete a 3-minute survey, and that's how you will get the slides. So you just complete the survey, you finish submit, and then there will be a screen that will come up, just a page, and it'll give you a link to a Google folder or just another page, and you click on that, it'll take you to the slides. You'll be able to view them. All right, so we have today with us Ciara. Ciara is one of our NJSBDC Capital Team consultants. Ciara has done many webinars with us, and we love having her come back. And our audience loves her too, because we always have a lot of requests for Ciara and different topics in accounting. So Ciara, welcome. I will stop sharing my screen, and please go ahead, and it's your show.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I'm sorry for the technical issues we're facing. It's a busy day for all of us, I'm sure. Thank you for the warm welcome, Uzma, and thank you all for joining. I know you have your businesses and your own projects that you can be taking care of right now, and you're here to get this information. So I appreciate all of you being here with us today. Hi, everyone. Okay, so a little bit about me. My name is Ciara Gutierrez. I have been working with small businesses and entrepreneurs for over 15 years in a variety of industries. I was not aware of this great organization until very recently in my life, and it's an honor for me to be a part of it, to share information with all of you. I am the daughter of immigrants, of an entrepreneur, and I wish this was a resource that was provided to her when she was starting her businesses. So I do this as a service to my community, like many other counselors that work with this organization. And I hope that today you gain some information, some knowledge, and some better processes for making your business more organized and understanding a little more as an owner the importance of financial statements. This will be based on some prompts for QuickBooks Online, but the processes can be applied to any accounting system. So we're going to talk very generally about some financial statements, how to obtain them in QuickBooks, what are the processes to generate financial statements in the most accurate way. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Okay, slide, please. All right, so since this is based off QuickBooks Online, let's discuss what QuickBooks is in case any of you are not familiar. So QuickBooks is an accounting software package developed and marketed by Intuit. First introduced in 1983, QuickBooks products are geared mainly towards small and medium-sized businesses. QuickBooks has a cloud-based platform called QuickBooks Online, as well as various desktop versions. Today, we're going to focus a lot on QuickBooks Online. Any of you who have attended previous seminars know that I am a big QuickBooks fan, but it is not the only platform that is out there. So please do your research based on whatever industry you're in, whatever's going to make your life easier, whatever's going to help you understand your numbers more efficiently. Make sure you speak to your CPA or anyone who is working with you in order to ensure that this system is something that you want to do. I like QuickBooks because I feel like it is very user-friendly and you can tailor it according to whatever the needs are of your industry. But there are many other packages out there that you can also purchase and work just as well. Next slide, please. All right, so let's discuss what business financials are. So business financials are documents that demonstrate a company's financial performance and business effect. Some businesses refer to these documents as financial statements. So the most common use are profit and loss, balance sheets, and cash flow statement. So if you're ever applying for a loan, you're discussing, your quarter with your CPA or with your financial advisor, these are the documents or the statements that they're looking at in order to review or analyze the data or the activity happening within your business. Now, obviously, in order to make sure that these documents are accurate, the information has to be accurate. So we're going to talk about the processes that happen or should happen in order to get the end result of clear financial statements. Next slide, please. So the first one, which is probably the most common one, is the profit and loss statement or the income statement. The profit and loss shows the company's income or revenue or sales, as well as expenses during a set period of time. Profit, revenue, gains, expenses, and losses help us calculate net income. So if revenue is higher than expenses, then we make a profit. So if we make $1,000 in sales and only spend $500 in expenses, then we've spent less than we've earned, right? So that is a profit. But if the revenue is lower than expenses, then we lose money. So if we make 1,000 in sales, but spend 2,000 in expenses, then we're losing $1,000. So the profit and loss statement is probably the easiest way to understand the nature of your business. This can be run at any set period of time. You can do it by week, you can do it by month, you can do it by quarter, you can do it by year, you could do it by season. It really depends on when you're entering the data, and obviously the data has to be up to date. So if I don't have any of the information for April, then I can't run a profit and loss report for them. Okay, next slide. So the balance sheet is a little more complex, and this is more for anyone who's experienced in accounting or bookkeeping. This is mostly for your CPA or your experienced bookkeeper to do what's called adjusting entries. And we'll see an example of that towards the end. But this is what is going to show what the company owns. So for example, if a company owns trucks or owns equipment, or if it's a bakery and it has a lot of machinery, the balance sheet will show the value of that equipment on it. It will also show what the company owes. So if the company owes credit cards, small business loans, credit lines, etc., it's going to show it on this sheet. Okay. So on the sheet, we'll see assets, which are equipment, inventory, real estate, accounts receivable, anything of that nature. And it'll show liability, like we spoke about, credit cards, short-term loans, anything you owe to any vendors if you are on terms, it'll show it there. So shareholders' equity will equal anything you own minus anything you owe. So if you own $1 million, but you owe $2 million, you guys get where the difference will be. Very similar to the profit and loss statement.
Hello.
1 second. Please hold for me. Okay, so the next statement that we're going to talk about is the cash flow statement. And that's what's going to show the money coming in and out of a company. So this will consist of operating activities, which will include anything that's generating or spending any cash for the business, investing activities, so anything we buy, such as assets, purchases, or if we make any loans, and financing activities, which include generating and spending cash to fund the company, such as paying cash dividends to shareholders. So I know all of these reports can sound a little overwhelming, and if you're not familiar with them, it might seem like a lot of information, but like I tell all of my clients, you want to educate yourself as much as possible. So when you're having these conversations with your financial advisor, with your loan advisor, with your consultants, with your counselors, that you're understanding the terms that they're speaking to you. So even if it's a foreign concept to you right now, it's okay. It doesn't come naturally to everyone. You can definitely research and understand these a little better. Today is just a general overview to get you guys a little bit of the knowledge that's out there, but there's definitely a lot to learn. So please be patient with yourself. I know it's a lot of information. Next slide, please. Okay, so now that we've discussed briefly some of the common financial statements that are out there, and there's many, many more. Those are just the top 3 most common. We're going to talk about how do we get this information? How do we compile all of that data and actually generate these reports in QuickBooks or in any other software that we choose to use? So there's definitely steps, and depending on how complex your accounting system is or the steps that your CPA requires for you, is really what it's going to be, how extensive or as simple as your monthly close or your hard close will be every month. Okay. The first thing that it's going to be very, very important is that we need the data, right? Without the data, we can't organize it, we can't reconcile it, and we can't really understand what happened in the business. So you're going to make sure that you import all of the information from your bank accounts, from your credit card accounts, from your sales platform, from your POSs, anything that's linked to business activity, we want to make sure we have that information. The good thing about the age that we're in now is that all of this information can be easily imported via a file. You don't have to manually add anything anymore. However, it still requires review and it still requires some sort of experience because that information needs to be filtered and categorized, okay? So that takes me to my next point. We have to categorize all the data, okay? Thank you. For the set period of time. So for example, let's say someone gets QuickBooks today and we're already in May, end of May of 2023, but the business started in January. We need to import all of that information from January to this point. Since we're just gonna work on the first month, we don't need to categorize all the way through May. We can take it month by month. So we would take January, all of the January information, make sure we reconcile it, make sure we categorize it. And what does that mean? So obviously, there's different sales or deposits that come into the account, and there's different expenses that go out of the account. We need to make sure we're categorizing whatever is office supplies, whatever is payroll, whatever is rent, whatever is vehicle expense. So that way, when we run these reports, all the proper transactions go under the proper category. We obviously don't want to miscategorize a rent expense or miscategorize a payroll or contractor payment, because then we won't see where the money is going every month. So that's very, very important. After we've categorized all the data for that particular month, we would need to reconcile. And reconciling is, we can stay on that slide. Thank you. Reconciling is where we take, we're balancing the checkbook, or I think that's the best way to describe it. We are comparing the statement that we get from our bank, a credit card statement, whatever statement it may be, and we are comparing it to the data that we have in our accounting system. The reason why this is so important is because, one, there's human error, right? We could forget to manually enter something. And also there is technology. Technology can fail us. So we cannot count on the bank to not enter duplicate transactions, or for QuickBooks to maybe ignore one transaction. So until we've reconciled for that particular period and make sure we have no differences, and there's going to be an example on that on one of the slides, we really be confident that our reports are 100% correct, okay? The next step would be generating adjusting general journal entries, which this is an advanced skill. Most CPAs are doing this or creating the general journal entries for either bookkeepers, or they have them memorized, which means that every month they show that particular entry. This is an advanced skill. This is not for someone who does not have accounting background. You can surely learn how to do a memorized transaction, which means I provide the information or the template and you just copy it every month. But if it's to kind of classify anything and you're unsure of what asset account or liability account it goes to, speak to an expert, speak to your CPA. Your CPA will love if you take care of this and have this organized, because you're going to make their job easier when they're filing their taxes or when they're running reports for you. I haven't heard one CPA who's against having bookkeeping done properly. So it's important to have this as organized as possible. Once you've completed steps 1 through 4, and those are the bare minimum, because if you have inventory, there can be an inventory reconciliation. There can be many other steps. That's when we get to the point where we can actually run the report, okay? Now we can go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so step 1, this is the example of how it would look in QuickBooks. So once you connect all of your accounts, and as you can see in this example, there's 3 different accounts. Top left says checking, center says savings, third box says MasterCard. Each of those beads are their own profile. And the list that you see at the bottom that have like green boxes and say add on the far right, those are the transactions that are still pending to classify. So if I have anything lingering in this window, that means I'm not done classifying, unless I'm only working on a particular month and the other transactions are for the next month. So this is what your window will look like if you have successfully connected your bank accounts. And we want to make sure all of these transactions are clear before we get to the next step. Okay, next slide. So if we have categorized everything for the month and we've compared and selected all of our transactions, then we should get this beautiful window here, which is a zero difference. A zero difference means that my bank statement and my QuickBooks register are completely in sync. Everything matches up. We've accounted for all the sales. We've accounted for all the expenses for the month, and we're in the clear. This is what you want to see. If you ever see a difference, do not hit reconciliation discrepancies. That's an option. It's like an easy way out. Don't do that. You always want to know, why is there a difference? Even if it's a penny, you should always know why there's a difference. The clearer and more precise your processes are, the better your reports will be. So take your time. It can be very frustrating when you're reconciling an account, especially when there's high volume accounts, if you accept a lot of, credit cards and such. But it is possible. It is possible to figure it out and do it right. And QuickBooks has this great function that if all the transactions, it tries to read the transactions for you. So it'll auto select everything within that period and try to get you to zero. But sometimes it's a hit or miss. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is an example of an adjusting entry in case anybody was curious. Let's say insurance, right? You pay in January for the first 6 months of the year. You paid $500, let's say, or for the first 10 months, however. But you need to show that expense every month, because even though you prepaid it, it's still being utilized every single month, and we still want to add a numerical value to it. So this is an example of an adjusting entry. It would show that we have an insurance expense, and then it would reduce whatever we prepaid for the insurance or reduce the value. It might sound confusing for a lot of people, but long story short, we want to make sure we capture everything when it's being utilized, not just when we prepaid it. So we don't want to show a big insurance expense in January of this year. We want to make sure we're able to spread it out, because it's going to be on a monthly basis that we're utilizing the insurance. I hope that makes sense to everybody. I wanted to make sure to include that in case anyone was curious as to what would be a good example of a journal entry. Okay, next. Okay, so now that we've completely reconciled our accounts, we've entered all the journal entries to capture any adjusting transactions that we want to make sure to show in a certain period, then we can run our reports. And here you can see that in this mock example of a profit and loss statement, it shows that I made $1,000 a month that month up until May 25th. I spent $200 in continuing education, $50 in insurance, because we did that nice adjusting entry to make sure we displayed the $50. And then I have a net income of $750. So basically I earned more than what I spent. And obviously this is what we want to see. We don't want to see a loss every month, but I think this was the easiest way to show you guys, how sales and expenses are displayed. Now there's many companies that have a very detailed profit and loss statement where they show every single category with subcategories. For example, restaurants can show food sales by category, can show food expenses by category. Many industries and many owners like to see things to the fine detail, and you can obviously do that, or you can keep it very general depending on what your style is. But basically we want to see the number we want to see is that bottom number. Okay, next slide, please. Balance sheet. So this is what we were talking about that is more for your CPA, but some of the basic items that will be shown on the balance sheet are any of your bank accounts, if you have petty cash or cash on hand, if you have accounts receivable. So for example, any of my service-based businesses out there that offer terms to their clients, even though you're not collecting that money, that is on your balance sheet, because that is something that you hope to collect and does have some value to it. So the balance sheet will show, like we mentioned in the beginning, your assets, anything you own, as well as your liabilities if you owe any loans, credit cards, etc. Next slide. Now, we spoke pretty quickly and pretty briefly on why financial statements are important, but I think especially for all of the business owners, especially those who are familiar with this network, you're looking to hopefully grow your business, hopefully get some capital infusion, apply for a loan or grant. And lenders are going to look at the health of your business. And the only way for them to see if you are bankable, for lack of a better word, is to see how your business is doing. And financial statements truly provide that. It also will help all of you really understand what direction your business needs to go in. It'll also tell you, is your budget too low or are you spending too much? If you think that you're only spending, $500 in marketing because you're not checking your numbers every month, and then when you go do your taxes with your CPA, you notice that you're spending $5,000. That's a very big difference. It's better to be informed every single month as the transactions happen, or quarterly, depending on the volume of your business. To know where you stand and to make better business decisions, make better business strategies. All businesses are cyclical. There's busy seasons, there's slower seasons. And if you're not looking at your numbers, if you're not analyzing your data, and if you're waiting for tax time, you are doing a disservice to yourself and a disservice to your business. Sometimes it's hard to face facts, but we can't make decisions without knowing what we're looking at. So that's why making sure that your financials are organized is so imperative to the growth of your business. And also, you want to be informed just because of conversations. If a bank is having a conversation with you and telling you, that your business is not bankable, you're going to want to understand why and what you can change and what you can do in order for you to maybe attain that loan or get that company vehicle or get that credit line to hire more employees or to fund payroll. Without financial statements, it's nearly impossible to do that. So take this very seriously. Make sure you educate yourself as an owner and get a professional to help you. Work with this organization, work with counselors that can maybe point you in the right direction, but it is so, so important. Don't wait till tax time to understand where your business stands, because by then it's too late. I think that is it. Do we have any more slides? I think that's the last one. Let's do some Q&A.
Okay. We're on to Q&A. That went quickly, but a lot of information for our
Yeah.
audience. A lot of information. So let's hope we have some questions, and we do. Let me just put my share screen on quickly, and then we can get to Q&A. In the meantime, everyone, feel free to let us know what your questions are in the Q&A box, not the chat. We'll probably miss it, so just FYI. Okay, here we are. All right, Q&A. We have a lot of questions from when you were doing reconciliation in the beginning. So
The reconciliation?
yeah. So let's go through those.
Sure.
Tanya asked, and I'll go through the order of where we received them, so we don't really leave anyone who asked their questions in the beginning. Tanya asks, what other popular software programs are available that you recommend?
Oh, there's so many. So many. There's Oracle, there's Sage, there's so many. There's so many different softwares. I think for this particular demographic of business owners and just the ease of things, I would always steer more towards QuickBooks. But there's more sophisticated ones, but the more sophisticated ones require more accounting backgrounds. So I wouldn't just say jump into that unless you have someone, an accountant on your roster, or your CPA is going to work on your stuff directly and as a preferred software. But if it's you who's going to do it and you're going to do it on your own, QuickBooks, I think, is the one that offers the most variety and price points, as well as the versions, are really tailored to small, very, very small, from a consultant to a very large company. So in my opinion, unless you're hiring a professional to take care of everything and they have their own preference, if it's you and you're going to be in command of it, it should be QuickBooks.
Definitely. And we always have our disclaimers on all our webinars here, as you know.
Yes.
Like if a lawyer is coming on, then during a webinar, then they say, if I'm a lawyer, I'm not your lawyer though, so get your own lawyer. If I'm an
Exactly.
accountant, I'm an accountant, but I'm not your accountant, so please get your
Exactly.
own accountant. Exactly.
Yeah,
So
I always tell clients to, if you have a particular industry that you work in, research and look at what people in your particular industry are using. There's no need to reinvent the wheel, because what a bakery needs and what a trucking company needs can be completely different. So please be sure to do your research. This is just my recommendation, but it can be something completely different for you. Also talk to your CPA, because your CPA may have their own preference. And if they're the ones doing your taxes and they're the person that's handling your books, you want to make sure that you guys are working as a team and you're not making their job harder. You're making it seamless for them. So always ask your CPA what they recommend, and make your own decision based on what you research.
exactly. Awesome. All right. So Alina asks, is there a difference between QuickBooks Online and the desktop version?
Yes, there is a difference. The difference between online is that online is cloud-based, which means that it's portable. You can access it from a cell phone, an iPad, anything with internet connection. It doesn't download anything particularly to your device. You just need an internet connection in order to access it. The desktop versions are locally downloaded. They need to be either on your computer, on a server, etc., but they are not as portable, meaning that you need access to that particular server or that particular piece of equipment in order to utilize it. The biggest difference between one and the other is security. If it's on one computer, then only people who have access to that one computer can see the information. If it's cloud-based, then you need to have a couple more security protocols in place to make sure that the data remains secure. Intuit, which is the owner of QuickBooks and is also the owner of TurboTax, takes security very, very seriously, because they do have a lot of personal data on users. So you don't have to worry about them having a data breach. You have to worry more about the people that access your internet connection. So that is the main difference between QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online. And there's features too that are different. QuickBooks Desktop is a little more sophisticated in the way that it presents reports, and a lot of people prefer it because of that. But the issue is that it's not cloud-based, and we live in a cloud-based world now. So it really depends on the user and the nature of the business.
All right. Thank you. We have Mel. Mel asks, will it reconcile if I exclude some transactions?
It might if, for example, there was a technical error and transactions downloaded twice and you accepted them twice and you need to exclude one because one is an error, then yes, it will reconcile if you don't select all the transactions. But it shouldn't. There shouldn't be anything lingering unless, for example, you wrote a check on the 30th of that month and it's the 31st and it hasn't cleared yet, then that check is still pending, although it's been written. So I don't know if I'm clear what I'm saying. You wrote a check to someone on the 30th of the month, but they don't cash it until the following month. It'll still display on QuickBooks that you wrote it, but it just hasn't cleared. That might be another example where you exclude a transaction. But there could be many reasons why you exclude one.
Gotcha. We have Isia. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. How do you reach the reconcile window in QuickBooks?
Depending on which software package you're choosing, because there's different tiers to their subscriptions. It's usually under the accounting or bookkeeping tab or the chart of accounts tab. There should be a tab that says reconcile, but it might display a little differently for everyone. So it depends on which software you have. And you can always click the search icon. There's like a magnifying glass. You write reconcile and it'll pop you into the proper screen.
Got it. Felix asks, I use self-employed QuickBooks. It looks different. Should I change it?
Depends on your business, and that's what I was saying. The displays are different based on the tiers and the levels of service. So if you were, for example, a consultant that just used to issue invoices to someone, but now you have a team or you work with subcontractors, you might need a little bit more features on your subscription. It really depends on what your business is.
Thank you.
Mhm.
We have a couple of questions from our audience saying, is there anyone who can help from NJSBDC, assist them with their QuickBooks or their books, general ledger adjustments, things like that. I do want to mention that our CPAs, our accountants that we have on our team, especially someone like Ciara, and even our other specialty consultants, we can definitely help you with guidance. We can provide guidance on what is available to us, but we can't go in and manually do the work for you. And that's not for just accounting, a CPA, that's for really any business. Whether it's marketing, we can't really help you set up your social media. If it's like creating a business plan, we can help you create that business plan. We can provide guidance and provide a template. But so just keep that in mind with NJSBDC. We're here for counseling. We can provide consulting on what you make available to us, like your GL, or if it's forecasting, your books, but we can't do that work for you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and it's important also to know that for any business owner, I know in the beginning, especially when you're starting, you're trying to cut costs and trying to do as much as you can on your own. And maybe you think like, I don't need a bookkeeper. I can do it all on my own, or I don't need a CPA. Trust me, you do. You do. It's best to invest in a professional that can set you up for success, be it a lawyer, a CPA, anyone that can help you and give you proper guidance so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's a proper investment and it's going to save you a headache. So yes, we're here to provide very limited guidance, but the ultimate say so and how your business operates is between you, your CPA, and your lawyer. So make sure that you take the time to invest in that because it's going to save you headaches and thousands of dollars in the future.
Thank you, Sarah.
Mhm.
We have a question from Douglas. How should you create an account for funds loaned by an officer of the company?
That's a question for your CPA. We can't answer that.
There you go. Perfect example. Juan asks, a family member gave my business a loan. How do I add it in QuickBooks?
Same thing. You gotta ask your CPA.
Yep. Technical things. Can't really help you there. Sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
Constance, I think this is, I think I know your answer, Ciara, but I'm just gonna ask it anyway, because I want to
Yeah.
make sure our audience gets the answer. Constance asks, I put some expense entries into a rule and it came up with a cash on hand, but I need it to be an expense with the category purchase. How do I change that?
Well, this is actually one
Oh.
I can answer.
Okay, good. I'm glad I asked that.
So if you created a rule, so QuickBooks has this wonderful feature that if it sees you repeating an action many times, it'll auto-generate a rule, but it will ask you first. And sometimes it's really great, and sometimes it makes a mess. So this is an example of where it created a rule under the wrong expense account. The only thing you need to do is in that same search bar or where you look at your bank feeds, there's a rules tab depending on which subscription you have, and you go into the rules window and you can either delete them or edit them. So get to the rules window within your bank feeds, and that's where you can actually modify or delete any auto-generated or self-generated rules.
Perfect. And every webinar, we always get this question for QuickBooks trainings. What is your most recommended QuickBooks training online?
I say the same thing, YouTube University.
Yep, exactly. I just literally quickly searched it up just to see. And
Yeah.
I just typed in QuickBooks training. That's all I did. And I searched it. And the first video that you get is from the QuickBooks channel itself, and it says all training videos, QuickBooks Online tutorial, and it
Yeah.
has 170 videos.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
There's a
they're
lot
all
of information out there. And just like I said with, finding the right software, also look at bookkeeping or QuickBooks training for your business. Don't look at trucking if you have a bakery because you're going to waste your time. Make sure you're filtering that information out based on what your needs are so that you can maximize the time. This is, accounting doesn't come naturally to anyone. Very few people learn this and get it in within, a couple minutes, but it requires work. It requires education. So look for, videos that are relevant to your industry so that you're learning and using your time efficiently.
okay. Good tip. So Jason asks, if you're starting out and putting together a pro forma for your business plan to pitch to investors, what numbers are you inputting for profit and loss, balance sheet, etc.?
So when you're going to be forecasting, which is not necessarily, you're not creating financial statements because the business is not up and running. You're going to forecast or you're going to estimate what the business is going to generate based on the market data that you've done, as well as the expenses that you are assuming the business will incur from a month-to-month basis. So there will be no actual profit and loss or balance sheet because the business is not operational as of yet. They will be forecasting in order to create a picture, a financial estimate of what the business will be, best case scenario. So profit and loss statements and balance sheets are for operations, like businesses that are actually operating.
So follow up to that, Ciara, does QuickBooks do any forecasting or projecting?
They do, but that's more for QuickBooks Desktop, and you really need to know what you're doing. So that is more for someone with an accounting background that will know how to plug in the data accurately. And maybe there is a simple way for them to do it. They do after you have a couple of years using the information, let's say a year or two in business, they can read the data and kind of create a cash flow based on the cycles of your business. They do have that as like an auto feature, but for something a little more specific, you would need an expert or someone who has more experience in that in forecasting.
All right. And we're going to take a couple, 4 or 5 questions more.
Yeah.
We're almost hitting our 12:45 mark. All right. So Danielle asks, if I am asked for financial statements for the last 2 years, specifically for government contracting, do they want the format month to month or annually?
That depends. I think it depends on the institution. They will let you know what format they want, but it could be it could be yearly. That's usually the most common if they want to see the last 2 years, but they may have specific questions for a period of flux. And they may want to see it in a more detailed way. It depends. They'll let you know.
All right. Delphine, they ask, what does CPA really look at? What does CPA really look at are QuickBooks for tax returns?
A CPA will look, well, depending on the kind of CPA that you have, right? Because there's tiers, right? If you're paying for a very basic service, someone's just reconciling your accounts and telling you you gained or lost money, then they're really just looking at it at tax time. But if you are working with a CPA who's also helping you with business strategy and growth, then they're looking at that more precisely and in more detail in order to give you sound advice. So it really depends on your CPA, just like anything else. You get what you pay for. So I know great CPAs that are, work hand in hand with their clients in order to ensure that business decisions are sound and that the year is flowing the way it should and that budgets are being followed. And then I also know many clients who work with CPAs that disappear. So a good CPA is someone you want on your team for sure.
Okay, and we'll do 2 more questions. One from Erin. Is there a way to retrieve transactions that didn't post due to a disconnection between the bank and QuickBooks? I
Oh, yeah.
constantly experience disconnection issues.
Yes, there is a way. You can go to your bank website, and most banks allow you to download transactions for a particular period, a particular day, a particular amount, and then you would download it as you would export it, and it'll give you the option. You can do CSV, Excel, etc., but it will give you the option of doing a QBO file. And when it gives you that option and you open that file, it'll automatically open in your QuickBooks. Or you can upload that same QBO file into your QuickBooks Online account, and it'll import the missing transactions. So there is ways of doing that without having to manually enter it.
Gotcha. Okay. And then let's do one more. Questions about learning tutorials, things like that. You need someone to help. Again, please go to YouTube, just search up QuickBooks tutorials.
Yeah.
They will come up immediately. Look for the QuickBooks channel. All right, I'm just looking through the questions and seeing if there's, okay. So we have one from Robin. Let's say you sold a defective product and your customer contacted you and requested a replacement. You grant them the replacement. How would you record that in the books?
Ask your CPA. Ask your CPA.
That's the popular answer, everyone.
We can, unfortunately, we really can't give you guys specific advice on how your chart of accounts should look, or
Yeah.
how certain transactions should post. That is, unfortunately, we can't.
Yeah.
So it's best to ask your CPA, because they're gonna lead you in the right direction.
Yeah, it's not that we don't want to, we're just legally not
We
allowed
can't,
to.
exactly.
We can't. We would love to. We would love to, but we just legally cannot. Okay, so we've gone through our questions. Sometimes we get some repetitive questions, sometimes we get new questions. And that's not to say, don't send the repetitive questions. No, I just say that to mention that we've done many webinars with Ciara. So if
Mhm.
you go to our webinar page, like where our recordings are, you will find most of the webinars there. And they're all recordings, so who knows, you might find your answer there. Our webinars are like 45 minutes to an hour. So, if it's a lot, then you can just skip certain parts that and just stick to what may help you. All right.
I just
So
wanted to add really quick,
yeah.
since we took a look at the chat. I think the difference between tax preparation and tax planning and advice. Yeah, I mean, that is very different. Just like bookkeeping and a CPA are very different. And even if it would be great in the future, we should definitely have a CPA here. But the CPA will also give you guys very generic answers, because he's a CPA or she's a CPA, but they're not your CPA. So they can't give you advice on a business or a client that they don't have familiarity with. So these webinars are a great way to show you guys what's out there for you to understand and learn. But it's also opens the door for you guys to hire professionals to help you on a more detailed basis, so that there's better understanding. Okay. This does not substitute having a CPA. I think that's the best way to summarize that. Attending these workshops, legal workshops or accounting workshops, does not substitute having a great CPA.
Yep. And we also, just like with our lawyers or with our CPAs, if we're providing a list or referrals, then we can provide 3 legally. That's what we're allowed to do. We provide a list of 3 referrals, and then it's up to you to interview them and select one based on your choice and how they fit with your business.
Wonderful.
All right. So we're moving towards the end. If we did not get to your question, then please, apologies, but we'd like to keep within our time limits. and we're hitting our 1 hour mark almost, and we don't want to go over. But if you go to NJSBDC.com, request counseling, and you'd like to refer to this webinar and ask a question or have a counseling session, then please feel free to. All right. Thank you, Ciara, so much
Thank
for
you,
all your.
everybody.
Yeah, of
It was
course.
great
Thank you for
having
doing
you.
this with us.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
All right, thank you. So we have our upcoming webinar. That's Thursday, June 1st. And the webinar is how artificial intelligence, AI, can transform your small business. Now, AI has been, getting very popular, and like ChatGPT, things like that. If you heard of them, then you definitely want to stay in the loop of how that's going to affect your small business or transform your small business. So that's with Marjorie Salas. She's also a small business consultant with us. Scan that code or go to our Eventbrite page and you can register there. The registrations are free. You can attend this webinar for free. We've helped 15,000 plus small businesses grow. We hit our 45th anniversary last year. So definitely doing this for a while. Again, no cost small business consulting. So training and events starting at $0, webinars for in-person events, and exclusive small business resources. Please go to njsbdc.com for more info. We have a lot of comprehensive lists and guides there. Or scan that code. It's a beautiful sunny day outside. If you can take a walk, I hope you can. And with that, I'll be signing off. Thank you for joining us and see you next week.